Ian Hawkins is a keynote speaker, author, and business journalist whose work has appeared on the BBC, Reuters, the international news agency, and CBS, the American television and radio network. Ian's career, interestingly, began as an account manager at the UK's largest speaker bureau, which is where I first met him. During his time there, he worked with some of the biggest names on the speaker circuit. At the same time, he was a professional stand-up appearing at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and a role which also saw him writing for BBC comedy shows, including The News Quiz and Loose Ends. Ian has also hosted and spoken at live events in Europe, the United States, and Asia Pacific, and is a speaker coach to a wide range of clients, including Olympians, cabinet ministers, and CEOs, where his expertise in leadership communication and his deep understanding of public speaking certainly comes to the fore. And very exciting to say that Ian has just put the finishing touches to a brand new keynote entitled Everything You Know About Public Speaking is Wrong, open brackets almost, close brackets. And he's ready to take this keynote speech on the speaking circuit. Hello, Ian.
Hello, Nadine. I'm very excited about this, and what an introduction.
Well, you deserve it. And yeah, it's been lovely knowing you for all these years. We've written a book together. Our friendship has stood the test of time. And
Stood the test of writing a book together. That takes some doing.
well, we've got another one, haven't we? It's coming out soon. That's all we say. I think we've been saying soon for a while. And yes. Anyway, everything you know about public speaking is wrong almost.
Hmm.
Quite a challenging title, Ian. So why did you go with that? Why did you choose it?
Well, because if you try and please everybody, you please nobody. I actually put the title up on a social media poll, and I thought, well, it's better to have half of people hate it and half love it than to have everybody completely indifferent to it. So I'll take that. I'll take that. I've seen a lot of people speak on the topic of speaking in front of other people. And I've gone to a lot of them, and I've always come away thinking, oh, they really know their stuff. Why should I get into their pool and take up space when they are doing something that is already working really well? But what they didn't have was my experience as an agent. They didn't have my experience as a stand-up comedian, which is really just public speaking raised to the level of an extreme sport. They didn't have my experience as a moderator, and they might have had one of those things, but they didn't have everything I had. And I thought, well, where's my clear blue water between what they are doing and what I can do? And so I thought I'll let them have their space over there. The space I occupy is going to be quite distinct from that.
So you bring the full package. Now, you and I have had so many discussions about public speaking,
Mm,
and we like the term professional speaking. But as you've pointed out, when you do your search engine optimization, your SEO, people look for public speaking. So is
mm.
that partly what drove your decision to stay with that title?
Yeah, I called it that because I knew people would say, aha, no, I know lots about public speaking. And my answer to that was always going to be, aha, well, you don't know that we don't even call it public speaking in the business. We call it professional speaking or speaking in front of other people. I think of it as speaking as part of your job. Because when you start thinking about it in those terms, why not do that aspect of your job better instead of doing what we usually do, which is assume that we're all good at it, or assume that we can leave it to chance, or that we can wing it and it'll all be fine. And sometimes it won't be fine. Sometimes you do need a little bit of nudging and coaching along the way to do that aspect of your job that much better.
Well, it's interesting what you said about nerves because it is about managing your nerves. So, yes, it is good to manage that adrenaline. Although, actually, if I was nervous every day, I'd be dead by now, and probably you would be as well, because the amount of presenting that we've done, it wouldn't be good to have all that cortisol. But
Mm.
people genuinely do get nervous. And the book that we wrote together was inspired by a headline we saw in the Metro newspaper a few years ago, which was the fact that people were more scared of speaking in public than they were of spiders, death, and clowns,
Yeah.
which then put us onto the process of thinking, my goodness, this is such an important leadership skill. And I suppose your keynote in many ways taps into that.
And I think it's really interesting about how nerves work because you're right. If when I present something as like if I moderate a conference, I'm like you. I don't get particularly nervous about it because it feels like very much, you know, a day at the office, albeit that our office is very well lit and we have to wear microphones. But if I'm doing a keynote speech or a bit of stand-up or something, though, I need the nerves because nerves for me is just energy. And I need to have the nerves because the relationship I have with an audience is intense. You know, I put a lot of my social battery into the relationship I have with the audience, and I need that little bit of pep because it's a heightened version of me. Okay, and so I really value it, and it's about how you burn that energy. Yeah, if you don't contain it and use it, it's an explosion. And what we want to do is try and make it into a rocket that everyone can look at and go, "Ooh," when it goes up into the sky.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
because it stops you thinking, it stops you accessing your executive function, it stops you being able to tap into the words that you need to say. I mean, that's for another time, maybe doing a whole session on how to manage the nerves.
Yeah.
But back to your keynote. I'm not
Yes.
letting you off the hook. I'm looking at your flyer now. And I noticed we've got two versions of it. We've got our
Mm.
20-minute sort of TED after dinner one, but it's also available as a 60-minute keynote. And my first impression was going, 60 minutes? Wow. Particularly as attention spans are going. But knowing as I know you well, Ian, I bet this is an interactive hour. Tell me that I'm right.
No. Yes, of course you're right, Nadine. Why wouldn't it be right? Now, my view of speaking is always that it's never about being a monologue. If the audience is not passive, they don't sit back and just absorb it. Okay, a good speech should always be a dialogue, and I put that front and center. And because it's about communication, speaking in front of other people is always about communication. And that means that the audience does have work to do. I have them thinking about things, visualizing things. I have them standing up for certain points, sitting down for other points. I have people speaking and giving me information so that each time I do this keynote, it is slightly different depending on who is in the room. One of the things that people are most afraid of they when they have that interactive element in a keynote speech is that it's incredibly cringe because the audience is like going, "Oh, I don't want to be breaking the bubble of speaking," or I don't want to say the wrong thing. And all the way through it, I do point out the responsibility's on me. This is my keynote. I'm having a conversation with you. You cannot go wrong because it's ultimately my responsibility how this pans out. And one of the nicest pieces of feedback I've ever had about me on stage is that the audience feels really safe with me. It feels like a safe pair of hands. And so I want to create that sense of safety for the audience so that they can interact and they won't feel cringe and they won't feel daft doing it. And that by doing those things, we all learn stuff and it puts a lot of the things that I say, it literally puts them into practice because they go, "Oh, he's right. If I do that, that does happen."
So there's a structure to it, but obviously some spontaneity and that's what taps into all your brilliant expertise as
Hmm.
keynote speaker, comedian, moderator. It's pulling, like you said, those
I,
skills
I
together.
will happily give you an example of this, Nadine. I was about to go on stage in New York doing stand up, and I said to the guy next to me, I said, "Any hints before I go on?" He said, "Yeah, slow right down. You talk too fast. Slow down." I went, "Okay," and because I thought, nice metropolitan New York audience, they'll be fine. I go out speaking really slowly, and of course, all my timing just goes off. And I'm going, "Oh, suddenly I've had to think about these words." And the audience didn't get me for the first 5 minutes, which is a long time in stand up. And I very quickly just went, right, I'm not going to do jokes. I'm going to establish my authority and build the relationship with the audience. And there was a couple on the front row, and I literally just chatted to this couple on the front row about what they were wearing and what they were doing that night. And by the time we were done, 2 or 3 minutes later, everyone was on board. They were like, "We like this guy. We approve of this guy. He's not getting spooked by not getting laughs." And then suddenly I started feeding in some material.
They got on the Ian Hawkins train, and what a lovely train it is. So who's this keynote really aimed at? Because when you think about live events, you're going to
Hmm.
have a variety of roles. Yes, live events will have their target audiences, but in that audience could be a whole diverse set of people, different generations. So, I mean, who's it really aimed at?
It's aimed at anybody that has to speak in front of other people as part of their job. And the last time I looked, that was everybody. But I do know that if you try to appeal to everybody, you end up appealing to nobody. So here's how I've structured it. The first thing is you will get tips and tricks as any speaker in this field is going to do. So I would find it hard to believe that you could sit through an hour of me talking about this stuff and not write something down that's actually quite a good idea and, oh, I'll try that next time, or I better not do that next time. In the middle, lots of people at these events are going to be in either management or mentorship position. So they'll be working with other people who they say, well, would you go off and do this conference for me? Or would you, would you address the board and talk through the figures? And it's to enable them to manage and mentor the other people they expect to speak as part of their jobs. And if you're managing somebody and you want somebody to do better, you can't just say do better. You have to have some structure. So there's a bit of structure in there as well that gives you an idea of how to help people be better. And then right at the top of it, leaders need to have their thinking challenged. They need to have something that transforms the way they approach this. And I think that if you have the opportunity to stand on a stage and speak to other people, it's a huge opportunity. Let's not keep seeing if we can get away with it. Let's not just take our slides from the marketing department and read off the presenter's notes. Let's actually do something that acknowledges that the people in that room have invested a huge amount of resource to take a day out of work, to travel across continents sometimes, to get on a plane, to get a hotel room, to sit in that room. What is it that you're going to do on the stage that matches that level of investment from your audience? And if you think good enough is good enough, then this is not for you, because this is about people that want to raise their game to the next level.
Now, whether as an agent or presenting, you've seen so many other people doing keynote speeches on all sorts of subjects. So why does your keynote matter right now? Why do you think it's going to work well with audiences?
I think at the moment we're going through a bit of a crisis of leadership. We're not sure what leadership looks like. And now, why are we talking about leadership? Aren't we talking about speaking in front of other people? And the answer is yes. Speaking from a stage, speaking in front of other people is leadership. They're the same thing. They actually go together. And I am not a great expert on leadership, but I am an expert in speaking in front of other people. And I fundamentally believe that if we can get the people that are really great leaders to improve this aspect of what they do, it will only feed into their abilities as a leader. I'll give you an example. Andrew Tate, who I think is an obnoxious, nasty piece of work, but Andrew Tate speaks to a huge number of people. And the response from the rest of the world, from the sensible folks, cannot be, oh, we'll just do what we do, but more of it. We have to raise our game. There's a reason why everyone knows who Andrew Tate is. There's a reason why he appeals to people. And we cannot have a situation where our so-called leaders are going, no, we're going to ignore everything about that. We're just going to do what we've always done, because we can't. We live in a different world. Politics 5 years ago is not politics today, and we
Yeah.
have to change what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean it's getting deep now, isn't it? This keynote sounds very enticing for all sorts of reasons. Well, according to your flyer, it says attendees will enjoy an engaging, interactive, high energy hour. Whoa! Transform how they think about speaking, get tips and tricks to put into action and share, learn genuine field tested insights from the world's highest paid and most influential speakers. So that's interesting. I'll come back to that. Be inspired to become a better speaker and leader. So how have you gone about doing your research where you've tapped in to other people speaking, those high paid and influential speakers? Have you gone about that?
Well, I've seen a lot of speakers in my time. So, as a stand-up, I was going to lots of stand-up clubs and seeing all people that were starting out, people that are doing very well, people at the top of the game. As an agent, I would see politicians, CEOs, business speakers, all of those people that get paid tens of thousands of pounds just for standing up and doing their piece. And I was fascinated. I was going by what somebody who, what a top flight entertainer does. What is it that they do that a really good politician does? What is it that they do that a keynote speaker who is beloved of the circuit but maybe isn't a household name? What do they all do that's really, really good? And I boiled it down to the three things that we actually put in our book. And the more I explored these three ideas, it's just these three things that they all get right, the more I realized it it covered all kinds of communication. And the more I realized it covered communication in leadership. I was early doors in my stand-up career. A friend of mine just said to me, he said, stop trying to be funny. Lead the audience to a laugh. You're not trying to just batter them over the heads with a joke. You're actually trying to get that audience together and take them with you towards laughter. And whenever you see a comedian bomb or fail on stage, it's because they failed in that fundamental getting everyone together and leading them to the joke.
And once people have seen your keynote, what are you hoping they're going to do as a result of it? So when people are watching and attending at an event, what are they going to get out of the keynote? What's your kind of wish list they'd say if they had to sum up in a sentence or two?
For somebody to say, I've realized that what I've done so far, I've been getting away with, but actually, what I've done so far is mediocre. And I want to meet the demands of that audience. Like I say, the audience that has, paid money to be there, they've booked the hotel room, they've booked the flight, they've traveled all day to get there. What am I going to do that actually meets that level of commitment from the audience and surpasses it? Because that's what I try to do with this keynote. I look back on stuff that I was doing, which was completely at the tips and tricks level, and I said, that's fine, but it's not meeting the respect that I've got from the audience and the commitment that I've got from the audience. I need to go above and beyond the tips and tricks, and I need to give them more back.
And you've got some amazing stories as well, haven't you? I think about your business journalism career, taking you from what Pharma Labs in Gothenburg to water purification in Nicaragua. It's all sounding weird and bizarre, isn't it? Dodging muggers in Panama City and filming from a helicopter over an active volcano.
Shall I tell you one of the first things that I chucked out of my keynote speech, Nadine?
Wasn't about the muggers, was it?
It was about the muggers. It was. I had done a couple of slides about my career, and it had all of that on it. And the more I looked at it, the more I thought, I don't have to justify being on this stage. I don't have to spend 10 minutes of my hour saying why you should listen to me. The audience is already there. If
Yeah.
they don't start getting the goods pretty early on, they'll just wander off anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I've done. And I got rid of it. But I thought you've got to have something in there that says that you've had a career. And I just replaced all of those slides with a little animation of a roller coaster.
Uh, yeah, like a star. So where can we see this keynote? How can we book you in?
I am I pride myself on being very bookable. So you've got a couple of choices. You can either come to my website, mr-hawkins.com. I'm all over LinkedIn like a cheap raincoat in a thunderstorm. Or if you ask your agent, if you work with an agency already or speaker bureau, they should have my details there. And I am very findable. They will find me. I might be in the wrong Rolodex. I might be in the other agent's Rolodex, but I'm certainly known to the agencies, so you should be able to book me through your friendly local agent.
Indeed. Um, and so, yeah, if you want the 20-minute version, sort of that after dinner or that TED talk, or right through to that hour interactive one, then, yep, this is a brand new keynote speech. Everything you know about public speaking is wrong, almost. Brought to you by Ian Hawkins. Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure talking today. Wishing you all the best. I know it's going to be a great success, and I probably won't get to see you for years on end as you get booked all around the world. But good luck with that.
Nadine, I will consider it a a mark along the way if you have to introduce me onto a stage to deliver this speech. I'll go, right, that's it. It's arrived.
Maybe that's part of your keynote speech. You insist that I have to introduce you wherever we go.
Yeah, I'll put it on the rider. I want a Winnebago, I want 3 dozen white puppies, and I want Nadine Dereza to introduce me.
Brilliant. Ian Hawkins, an absolute pleasure and delight as ever. See you again soon. Take care.
Take care, Nadine. Bye bye.